All right.
Oh.
Welcome to the Domestic Draft Podcast. I'm Evan Bierman here with Dan Slowick. Dan, fresh off a spring break trip. So you got a
Yep.
beer there. Tell us about the trip and what you're drinking.
Yep. The family and I went to Idlewild, California. One of my favorite places down here in San Diego. Just about a 2.5-hour drive from San Diego, and you just get a complete different environment. You're in the mountains. It's beautiful hiking trails, small little town vibes. There was snow on the ground, so it was really nice to get out there and kind of just get away from everything and just relax for a couple days. Really enjoyed it. But the beer I'm drinking, and it's got San Diego and Chicago ties, so I'm excited about this beer. The brewery's Chula Vista Brewing. Or Chula Vista Brewery, excuse me. And Chula Vista, if you're not familiar, is like a South Bay neighborhood here in San Diego. And they got a really cool like entertainment restaurant strip that they're building up. A lot of people are looking to move there, and it's really building up. And a lot of businesses are starting to pop up there. But this brewery is a husband and wife that decided to go ahead and brew it. And the story goes, it's Timothy Parker and his wife, Dolly. And one day he was running by, and Tim is actually a Southside Chicago native and ended up in San Diego because he's in the Navy. So he did the military, and, San Diego is a big military town, and they kind of settled in here. And he was running by one day. They were living in Chula Vista. He saw an empty storefront, and he's a home brewer. So he just thought, hey, why not, turn this space into a community space where, we focus on good beer, we partner with local businesses, and just kind of be the local watering hole. So him and his wife just went in and they opened up this spot, and it's been open for some time now. And they have 2 locations. So this is like a small little tap room on the main street, and they also have a big like a warehouse where they do a lot of their brewing. And, if you've ever been to those like big, business warehouse type breweries, it's very much like that. The beer I'm drinking from them, it's called Warplanes Hazy Pale Ale. So I'm assuming most of their beers have like military kind of homage to them. So this one's the Warplane Hazy. It got a 3.7 on Untapped, 5.8% alcohol by volume. I like it. Pretty mild of flavor. Doesn't really punch you in the mouth at all, but it's really easy, really drinkable. And I like the story. We got to try to get Chula Vista on and talk about that connection that we both have as like a San Diego Chicago pipeline here. What about you? Yeah. What are you drinking?
I love it. So today I've got Obscurity Brewing. They're based out of Elburn, Illinois. Kind of a smaller little kind of farm town, I would say, in Illinois. Obscurity is in downtown Elburn. They opened in 2018. It's actually a restaurant too, so they do barbecue there. They have the craft beer, and then it's also a meadery too. So a lot going on there. Basically running Elburn over there with all that they have going on. They also have an event space called the Warehouse on North that they partner with, so providing beer there too. So yeah, a lot going on. Obscurity Brewing. They have events. They're doing Easter brunch. And they do like live music. A lot of different bands and stuff will play there, including their very own head of fermentation, Carson Souza. He plays drums for a band called Future Failures. He's playing there on Saturday, the 30th. So if you're in the Elburn area, check out Future Failures. And the beer I have is called Launch Juice, which I think is perfect for what we're going to be talking about today with baseball. It's a Midwest Hazy IPA with Citra and Trident hops mashed with corn and oats. It gets a 3.8 on Untapped, 6.7%, and it's a really good, drinkable hazy IPA. I'm a big fan. I feel like I haven't had a good hazy in a while.
Yeah, I like the name Launch Juice. It's a good name for a beer. I've been craving the hazies lately too. I don't know what it is. Is it like the spring, the transition of seasons? I was really into the lagers and the pilsners, and now, maybe just like a one real good hazy here and there really is doing it right now.
I know. It's a nice little change up, I think, from what I've been drinking lately too. Yeah. But Launch Juice is like, that's such a sick name. I feel like if you're going to play some golf or something, or if you're just watching, a ball game, like it's a perfect name for a beer.
Launch Angle.
Launch Angle, lead us right into our first topic, and a big one. The MLB season is right on the horizon.
Let's go.
Cubs start tomorrow, the 28th, opening day. It's been a couple games already. They're out in Korea. I feel like those were a week ago, though.
Those don't count. Those don't count.
You
Did
know,
anybody watch them? Did the MLB
no, it's
even
like,
acknowledge that was opening day? Tomorrow's opening day.
yeah, it was in the middle of the night. I mean, for you, maybe you could have caught the first inning or something. I don't know. It was super late.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody really had a chance to watch much of it. Good for them though for getting over into Korea. I feel like the fans over there went crazy for those games, and the scores were high. You know, it was awesome to see so much offense going on. But I'm pumped for the season to start. And so, you know, I like to do this bold predictions episode. We try to do this, I think, every year, just give our predictions on what's going to happen in the season, and not only with, you know, who's going to win the World Series and stuff, but also who's going to win all the awards, you know, the MVP awards, the Rookie of the Years, the Cy Youngs, things like that. So I want to start it off first. You know, we're Cubs guys. Let's start with the NL Central. What do you think is going to happen with the NL Central? And who do you think is going to, you know, go to the playoffs from this division?
Yeah, I think it might be a two-team division for playoffs. I think it might be one of the better divisions in the National League, because even at the bottom, you know, Pittsburgh, I feel like, is up and coming with a lot of talent. Cincinnati, Milwaukee won it last year, and there we are too, as kind of, you know, the teams that are, I think, going to try to win this division. I really do think the Cubs have a really good shot at it. I think a lot of people might have Milwaukee taking it again, or Cincinnati outlasting the Cubs with a lot of their young talent, a lot of arm talent too that needs to stay healthy for them this year. But I'm going to take the Cubs. I feel like they're just, you know, I feel like their floor is really high, right? They're just really solid, a lot of solid players. I don't think they got that high of a ceiling, but I think their floor is really high. And if they get, you know, enough out of their players, you know, I think they've got a really good shot at winning the division. I think their pitching needs to stay healthy. And I think, you know, some of the younger players that we've talked about, some of the younger arms as well, have to come up and produce. I know Wicks came up last year. I'm really excited for Brown. I think he's going to come up and really, you know, be kind of a lightning rod there for our arms. I'm worried about Wisniewski being sent back down to the minors. But maybe he'll come up, he'll figure some things down there. But I like the Cubs out of this division. Same as you?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm on the same page with that. It's a super interesting division because people are expecting the Cardinals to bounce back too. I mean, how could they be as bad as they were last year? Yeah, right. But if you look at their like pitching staff, they got some older pitchers in there, right? It's kind of an older staff. But if you look at Cincinnati, like you said, has some young pitching. Pittsburgh's young pitching. Both of them really need the young guys to stay healthy and produce. I mean, it's tough. You know, veteran pitching is much more reliable than the young arms. But Paul Skeens, you know, some of these bigger named young pitchers, it's so fun to watch and so like such high ceilings, right? But are they stretched out enough to last?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And all I wanted to say, you can keep going. It's just like, look at last year. No one thought Arizona, with all the young talent they had, was going to put it all together. Because typically, right, historically, that doesn't work. But that's
why I like where the Cubs are at, because they're, to me, would more emulate where like Arizona was. Like Zach Allen was so good, but he wasn't, you know, like a rookie, right? He wasn't like just coming up. Like he had a little bit of time in the league. Like he understands, you know, how many, you know, what's expected of him, how many innings he's probably going to need to throw to go into the playoffs and stuff like that. So I think we've got a good mix of that, where we have some younger guys, and we're going to have some young guys come up for sure. But they also have, you know, a couple arms that have been around for a little bit, and then also adding Imanaga, who's kind of a wild card.
Yeah.
Right. He's, you know, he's not a super young guy, but he's got some experience playing professional baseball. And I think that's just a total wild card, and I'm expecting big things from him. But, you know, even if you don't get that, I think it's still a good enough staff to win this division.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see too. I think the Cubs are a team that's going to make a move come the deadline as well. Kind of felt like almost this offseason was a little like 3/4 done, with like the acknowledgement and the knowing that like if we're in a position, we're going for it at the deadline kind of thing. So I would be looking forward to that as well. I was just reminiscing too. I was just out on a walk earlier, and I was, you know, my daughter was born in August, and I was reminiscing time since she's been here. And I was like, I don't know, I was just equating it to sports. I'm like, man, the Cubs were like in that push, right when she, after she was born, there like every game mattered, and it was like appointment viewing, and just feeling that excitement again with opening day just around the corner tomorrow, and having our baseball team back, and having the voices that we love to hear back on the radio or on the TV too. It's just a good time. I love Cubs baseball. I'm excited for it to be back. World Series, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I think we're on a good trajectory. I just don't think we have enough talent to compete to be World Series champs. But like, baseball is a finicky sport. You just never know. You never know who's going to get hurt. You never know who's going to like just figure shit out, and just put it all together for a year. Because you look at a lot of the players that were on that Cubs team that won the World Series, like they figure it out for like that year or 2 or 3 year window. And now a lot of these players, retired or fallen off. So it's really a sport that just like, you got to have everything go right in that year to win the World Series. I think that's most sports, but like baseball especially.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of the year is important, but it's nowhere near as important as that second half and that momentum that you carry into the playoffs, right? The first half's really figuring out like who's a contender, who's legit, what's, is the hype real for any of these teams? Is there any big surprises? Did anybody just way better than we thought? That's what I feel like the first half is figuring out. And then after that, once it's kind of determined, once that trade deadline passes, then it's really, the race is on and gaining that momentum as the end of the season comes in, the wild cards and everything. Like it's about who's hot at the end of the year. And I feel like the Cubs could do it, but I'm not going to predict them to be in the World Series, right? I think the Dodgers have so much talent. It's hard to not pick them. I don't want to pick them.
They're the favorite.
Yeah. I mean,
I hate the Dodgers too.
I would put them up there for sure. And I think I like Texas too. I feel like those are probably such safe picks, but those would be the teams, that you got Scherzer and potentially DeGrom. We talked about him a little bit as a kind of a wild card too, coming back towards the end of the year. You get both of those guys back to a team that's got some young, talented hitters that they're calling up immediately here. They're really going for it. They got a good manager too. So I think that team is just really well-rounded and has potential as the season wears on. If they can maintain, that first half of the season and have some of these bigger name arms and things come back, and we'll see if they still have it in the tank, especially Scherzer, who's getting up there in age.
Mm-hmm.
But they got some reserves that are coming up later on in the season, and they're already a scary looking team. With what they got at the start of the year and those young guys coming up. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the favorites. I'm surprised to see the Yankees as high as they are, but, they kind of mash right in the middle of their lineup with, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and Giancarlo Stanton. Like that's no one wants to pitch against that. The thing that scares me with them is their starting rotation. Not really sold on, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, and Nestor Cortez as their top three. Team that I really like, and I'll probably be as like, when the Cubs aren't contending, I tend to like adopt a team. And this team I've kind of been following because I liked a lot of their young players, and I got some on my fantasy team this year is the Orioles. I just think they got a ton of talent. They won out. They got Burns to bolster that starting rotation. I think they're young enough to know that they're young enough to like not know how good they are. You know what I mean? And just go out there and play.
Like so Arizona was. Yeah.
But I think they're more talented. I really like the Orioles. They're going to be a team that I'm going to be rooting for, and a team that was a disappointment last year, but 2 years ago was really putting it together. Is Seattle Mariners. I like them as well. And then I just think Atlanta. I was looking at Ronald Acuna, and I was just like looking because I was curious of his age, and I was thinking. Hoping that he was older than he is. But that guy's like 26 and he's just in the prime, and he's going to be in the prime for the next like 5 years. That guy's just insane. That organization, the arms they produce, the bats they produce, the way they're able to just, year in and year out, just get and acquire talent. And it seems like always on the cheap and always just like getting somebody else's garbage and turning it into gold. I think the Braves. Those are my three teams, not really NL, AL, but just three teams that I think could win it.
Yeah.
The Braves, man, they're so good.
Yeah, the Braves are so good. So good at recognizing superstars too and locking
I
them
think
up.
they might have a comeback player of the year on their team too with Chris Sale. I really
All
do.
right,
I think
let's go right into comeback player of the year. Is that who you think's taking it?
I think he's got a good chance. Another player that's on my team that I think is going to be bouncing back is Vlad Guerrero Jr. I think he's been down, but I think he is primed for a comeback season. I think he started so hot, and just out of the gates, like unbelievable. Had some regression here lately. But I like that as a pitcher, batter as comeback players. You got any in mind?
So I'll start off the bold predictions early here with my comeback player of the year prediction. It's Jack Flaherty, a guy who I think
St.
we've
Louis.
picked up.
I had that guy.
So he's on Detroit now. He bounced around a little bit after, he had a little bit of success in St. Louis, but he's having a pretty good spring. He's thrown 18 and a half innings. He's got a 2.95 ERA, 0.98 whip, 26 strikeouts in 18 innings. Like, that's pretty good. He's only 28, kind of prime age for a starting pitcher. And he supposedly spent the offseason retooling his arsenal of pitches.
Okay. Best shape of his life.
So, best shape of his life narrative. And he faces the White Sox and the A's in his first 2 starts. So if he sucks in those, just forget that I even said this. But that'll be the litmus test. If he absolutely kills it in those first 2 starts, this could be the guy.
All right. I got 2 more. Just looking at some fantasy players of yesteryear that I have on my team. Speaking of the Braves again, they got my boy. He's probably on waivers right now, but Jared Kelenic is on their team. Kelenic, whatever. From Wisconsin. He was in the Mariners organization. He was like top prospect for a while. I think he's just going to go down there and like drink the Atlanta water and just be in that organization, that system, have a lot of talent around him. I think he's going to be primed. And then another ex-Brave.
Oh my gosh.
This organization.
Yeah.
Soroka and the White Sox. Michael Soroka is on the White Sox. He's had a ton of injuries the last 2.5 years. Just really hasn't pitched at all. He was in the minor leagues for most of last year, just trying to get healthy. White Sox took a flyer on him. White Sox tend to do a pretty good job, developing starting pitching, in my opinion. That's not their weakness. I feel like usually their starting pitching is pretty good, and they ended up trading most of them because those are the only pieces they have. So maybe they got something there with Soroka and they could develop them, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he's all used goods.
Yeah.
Comeback player of the year is tough, man. No one saw Bellinger last year.
Because you got guys that were good and, fizzle out for a couple of seasons and then come back and play well on a new team. Like that certainly happens. And then you got guys like Edwin Diaz, who's a stud and was just hurt all last year, and is going to come back. And is he going to win comeback player of the year because he just didn't play last year? I could certainly see that too. So that's a good bet, I think.
What a percentage on Javi Baez winning comeback player of the year?
5%. I don't know that I don't want to hate on Javi. I don't want to do it.
He's enjoying that money. Well deserved too.
Yeah.
Well deserved.
Yeah. I'm glad somebody else paid him. But
it's true.
Yeah.
Another thing we like to look at too on these bold predictions is rookies coming up. I think, especially a couple of years ago, and the Cubs have a couple of them, but when our farm system was loaded, we were looking, at everybody's farm system and all the rookies, but we got some, solid, and even in our division, one of the top prospects. So you got any idea or any predictions of who you like for rookie of the year, AL or NL, just a name?
Yeah, I'll give you my AL and my NL. So NL, I'll start. He's the favorite. Yamamoto for the Dodgers. Terrible first start, right? But he signed a 10-year contract with the Dodgers. It's not like they're giving up on this guy anytime soon. He's the real deal. I think he's going to have some hiccups, right? It could have just been he was in Korea, or it's just he's first getting adjusted to.
I think there's something
MLB
that
batters,
I heard this morning. I heard this morning that I think the mound there is shorter. And a lot of times, Japanese players have a hard time, adapting their fastball because the mound's not as tall, or vice versa, something like that. It takes them a while.
It's going to take him a little bit, I think. I think Otani even had a little bit of a learning curve at the beginning too. And so he's certainly figured it out. And I think a lot of these guys do. And Yamamoto is going to be fine. I think after April, he's going to turn it around quick and he's going to easily take home the NL Rookie of the Year. He's the favorite right now. I don't know how much you can make off of betting on Yamamoto, but as long as he stays healthy, I think it's his to lose. And then for AL, I like a guy who I picked up. You're going to call me a homer on a lot of these picks because I have him on my fantasy team. Junior Caminero.
Okay.
The Tampa Bay Rays top prospect. And he was CBS Sports number 2 prospect in all of baseball coming into the season. He's only 20 and he's going to play third base, drawing some comps to your guy, Austin Riley. But I think the Rays are right now, they sent him down. I think they're going to play a little bit of the service time game. And then he's up pretty quick and he's hitting right in the middle of that order and he's going to mash. I mean, the Tampa Bay is another team who we haven't mentioned yet, but they're for me in the mix with like the Orioles and the Braves and I mean, maybe more so on the Braves side, just recognizing talent. And they traded nothing for this guy. And now he's the number 2 prospect in baseball, like at 20 years old. So they've certainly found a diamond in the rough. And I think he's going to be a stud. We'll see if he can beat out some of these other, major players like Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter on the Rangers, both of them over there. Like those guys seem pretty insane. I think Langford's only, he's like second or third ever in games played in the minors before coming up to the MLB. I think it's like 40 games or something.
Like the least amount of games.
Least amount of games before coming up. And so like that's pretty nuts. Hard to not want to bet on that guy. But I like Caminero. I think he's got some flair too, and I really like that.
He's your guy. Guy.
That's my guy. I'm planting my flag in Junior Caminero. Who you got for rookie?
I'll keep the same kind of theme going too. Baltimore, man, I got Gunnar Henderson from last year. I had Adley Rutschman, and then they got the next guy, Jackson Holliday. Everybody was pretty hyped on him, even though he's going to start the year in the minors. I think he's going to come up and produce and play a pivotal role. I don't think they're just going to have him down there for, and then put him up for like spot positioning here. I think they got a plan in place. And that roster is just oozing with talent. It's just, I mean, Baltimore's roster is great. I wish that was the Cubs roster, man. It's so good. For the NL, I don't want to say it, but I think Jackson Chourio in Milwaukee, that right fielder is he's got a good bat. He could play the position, and just something about Milwaukee outfielders, and just thinking back to Ryan Braun, and just, again, the Brewers kind of, they do too. They're quiet. They're a quiet franchise that just, surprises people and wins games and produces some talent too. And it's always like those kind of franchises that are just in the background, just allowed to kind of go to work and don't really have the media spotlight on them and the pressure on their players that allows the talent to really develop there. And then, of course, Pete Crow Armstrong. I think he's going to win NL Rookie of the Year. No, I don't think
he's going to figure it out. Michael Busch, though, I think has some decent odds, right, for the Cubs.
He's like in the top 6, I think, in Vegas odds for NL Rookie of the Year to come up and produce. We kind of need someone to play first base. Need a bat there as well. It's kind of been a revolving door for the Cubs roster ever since Rizzo left. So if he's the guy, that would be huge.
Man, do you remember talking about Mervis? How long did we talk about Mervis for?
Mash Mervis.
Mash Mervis. T-shirts are flying around. Everyone's buying them up. This is the next guy.
I thought you were going to say Brian LaHair.
Is he the next Ryan LaHair? Is that what it was? We thought he was Rizzo, and he ended up being LaHair. Is that what happened there?
Might be.
God, I still remember we went to the Cubs game and I bought the
LaHair jersey.
The hair shirt, because he was the all-star. I was like, this is going to be the guy. And they're like, dude, Anthony Rizzo is going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And they were like even selling the Rizzo stuff too. I'm like, no way. It's LaHair.
You were sold.
So I was sold. He was great for one season. All right, let's move on to Cy Young.
Yeah.
So who do you got for AL and NL Cy Young?
I think the favorites are for Cy Young, Zach Wheeler, and out of the Phillies, and then I think Kevin Gausman and Corbin Burns might be the favorites there. I mean, I'm going to go with my guy again and just keep this going. If I had to pick one for the AL, it'd be Corbin Burns. He's got his new team. He's got a lot of support that Milwaukee really didn't give him last year. And for the NL, let's go with Justin Steele. Let's go with the homer pick there. The John Lester type. Not a lot of flash to his game, but just a gutsy, pitcher that just like won't take no for an answer and just go out there and just dog days of summer, get a win.
He's got it in him. I think if he can, it's the end of the year that he seems to wear down a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he's got it in him.
I'm sure he addressed that this offseason too. And he's got a ton of, people in his corner that are in his ear of what he should be doing and how he should be, rectifying that kind of letdown.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I like those picks for sure. Corbin Burns, I think he's up there as being one of the favorites, but I like Pablo Lopez for the AL.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a shot in the dark, I think, but he's been great. In the last 4 years, really, he's had an ERA in the threes. Was an all-star, I think, for the first time last year. He was top 10 in Cy Young voting. And I think this year, I think he takes it up a notch. I think he cranks it into the low twos in ERA, and he wins his first Cy Young, but I think it's going to be a close one. I think the AL is going to be close because I don't think there's, we have Burns, Gaussman. I had him in fantasy last year. He was great. I don't know that he's like a superstar stud like Garrett Cole would be if he was, not injured. He's not like a runaway pick. So I think it's going to be close. I think it could be close. But I like Pablo Lopez. He's an AL kind of sleeper Cy Young pick. And then NL side, Spencer Strider has to be up there.
Yeah, true.
Odds too. He's pretty awesome. So I think that's not a super bold pick, but he's on another level. The spring training, he's been fantastic. He was so good all last year. He added a new pitch too, a new breaking ball. Like, I don't know. I feel like the sky's the limit for that guy. Yeah. Right keep it on the Atlanta train with everything else. So
there's not a lot of parody of like, well, who's talent, who's MVP, Atlanta, Cy Young, Atlanta.
Right.
It's not too fun.
No talent over there. All right. So we'll go MVP. Who do you got for MVP?
Ronald Acuna Jr. Just keep it there, man. Yeah. I think he's got a really good shot again. What about you? You got anybody?
Yeah.
So we'll do that, and then we'll maybe like a dark horse.
So AL MVP, I like Julio Rodriguez. I got him in fantasy too, so that's why I said that. And my NL MVP. So I like Julio just because, and I think I mentioned this a little bit on a couple of shows ago. He's been great. His first 2 years is his third season now, but he started his first two seasons coming out of the gates with batting average 205 and 239 in March and April. So he's just been slow starter the last 2 years. And so now he's mashing in spring training this year. It's his third season. The guy's got 40 plus homer, 40 plus stolen base potential. He's right up there with Acuna talent wise, I think. So I think he could, run away with the AL MVP. And then on the NL side, I think Mookie Betts is just such a easy pick to make. And he's already off to a hot start. He's consistently great. He's always in the mix for MVP. So, you'll be rooting for him throughout the season. I think he's not going to lose it for you quickly. But in Los Angeles right now, he's kind of the forgotten man. I think you got Freeman, you got Ohtani's there. Yamamoto's coming over. Like, he doesn't have a lot of spotlight on him, I don't think, right now, which is probably interesting for him. He can just kind of go to work, but he's always going to come through with the batting average. He's hitting at the top of the best lineup in baseball. He's going to score a ton of runs. He's won an MVP before. He's been a runner-up 3 other times, including last year. So I think he carries this hot start into the season and wins his second MVP award. And I can't believe, I was looking up his age too. He's only 31. Like, he's still got a ton of baseball ahead of him too. And that guy's definitely gonna be in the Hall of Fame. So I like Mookie Betts.
Yeah. Those are solid picks. Dark horse. How about this one? How about Fernando Tatis? San Diego Padre. He was hurt, had all the talent in the world, total letdown the last year and a half, 2 years. Maybe, less of a distraction, less pressure. They kind of went all in for it last year, didn't work out, and now kind of people around here, there's not super high there's not World Series expectations. So maybe that's a name to look out for there. And then Adley Rutschman, another guy that I was really high on and really enjoy, and we'll keep the Baltimore Oriole train rolling as a surprise MVP candidate.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think a couple other names you could probably throw in there. Corbin Carroll on the NL side.
True.
He's just got,
does it all.
Does it all. Batting average. He's going to hit you homers. He's going to steal some
Surprised
bases.
you didn't say your boy, Ellie De La Cruz.
And I was going to go Bobby Witt, actually, as my other guy.
Your other boy.
On the AL side, Kansas City's probably not going to be great, but that guy's got so much talent too. I think he could do the same thing. He could steal a ton of bases. He can hit for average. He can hit for power. He could certainly win an MVP award. So those are a couple other names to watch.
I'm ready for some baseball, man. I'm ready for this thing to get rolling. I love the new rules that they put in last year. The pace of play was faster. The games were more enjoyable, in my opinion. And just want to see the new players and new players in new places, and this new Cubs roster kind of just go out there and see what we got.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the Cubs, like we just talked about, have a good floor. They got some good veterans in there, and then they got a lot of upside too. You got some guys that are going to come up, and you also got like Imanaga. Yeah. Michael Busch came over. What are you going to get out of, everybody else? Like, is Bellinger going to continue his hot season from last year? So I think Morel is somebody that people are expecting a lot from too. Yeah. Another step from him. Like, I could see that. There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. Yeah. See if we have the, Saad comes up again, Brown, if he comes up and if he's something there. And then, I think our bullpen too seems to be pretty solid. I think we got a lot of arms to, figure out who's going to be the setup. I think we know who the closer is, but setup and long relief and et cetera. I think Counsell is going to be a good addition. Is he worth how many games that people are arguing? Is he that good? I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's just going to be fun to see something different.
That's a good point bringing up Counsell too, because this was an interesting conversation they were having on the radio today. Was if you think back to all the great Chicago managers, like they were all kind of quirky, weren't they? Like Phil Jackson, a little bit of a weird guy.
Master.
Yeah, a little bit of a weird guy. Joe Madden, kind of a weirdo, right?
Yeah.
And there's like Craig Counsell just seems like a normal dude. Like if you just, you just see him in Jewel and like you wouldn't even recognize him kind of guy. So like, I don't know. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
Enough. I don't know.
Something
it's the Chicago media monster. We'll see how he handles it, man. It's tough.
Right. All right. March Madness is happening, Dan. What do you think about what's going on so far? Why don't you give us a recap where we're at and what you think of the tournament?
Yeah, I think it's, some of the best days in sport is that first weekend where it's just game after game after game. And you got the small schools upsetting the big schools. I think the one that I called out that I knew was going to happen was Kentucky going down. They lost in the first round to Oakland, which is out of Michigan, not out of California. But they had that guy just raining threes. I forget his last name, but he set the NCAA record for most threes made in a game. So that's like fun to see. The 14 upset the 3 seed there. That was a big upset. I think James Madison over Wisconsin. It was another one on the podcast we talked about that might have been an upset that did happen. So I just like seeing the upsets. My Final Four are still intact, which is good to see. No major upset in that regard. I don't think any of the favorites are out. My Final Four is Houston, Gonzaga, Arizona, UConn. Gonzaga being the wild card there. I just think maybe, a year where they don't have any pressure on them might be a little bit easier for them to go ahead and, overshoot the expectations. But this weekend's going to be great. I mean, we have Houston versus Duke, Marquette versus North Carolina State, where they got the big guy that's getting a lot of media right now. Alabama, UNC, Arizona, Clemson, UConn, San Diego State, Illinois, Iowa State. That's going to be a big game. Illinois, I think this is the first time in like 20 years they've gone to the Sweet 16 or something like that. So that's good for Illinois there. Yeah, I mean, Purdue, the number 1 overall seed, is going to play Gonzaga, Creighton, Tennessee. So I think I'm rooting for Gonzaga to upset Purdue. I think that can happen because I got Gonzaga to my Final Four. Houston almost lost one. There's a bunch of overtime games that were just so much fun to watch, and Houston was part of that. Man, it's just the best. I don't know. A lot of good players showing up. UConn looks really good with Hurley as their head coach too. I think a lot of people picked UConn to repeat, but it's so hard to repeat. I just can't wait for tomorrow. I think there's more games starting tomorrow. It's opening day for tomorrow, Thursday. It's just like a great sports day. And I just love March Madness. I love the rapidness of it. And I love the storylines that, you'll hear about these guys once in their life. And
I think it's been one of the most watched March Madnesses in the last 10, 20 years too. I think ratings wise. Yeah, it's up there, which I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear because of how many of the top seeds are still in, right? There's been a couple upsets, like you said, in that first round, and that happens every year. But has there been any of the ones or twos going down? Marquette had a little bit of a scare, I think, there, but they pulled it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people's brackets, like you said, like my Final Four is still intact too. Yeah. And I think, it's going to take like UConn going down for everyone to be like, okay, this tournament.
It was scary, man. Yeah, Houston almost went down too, and that's a lot of people's favorites too. So
yeah, those are the two teams I have in the championship actually too, like everybody else. So I got Gonzaga winning this next one against Purdue as well.
Same. So we're big Gonzaga people. I like it.
But I have Tennessee taking Gonzaga in the next game, so we'll see if Tennessee can even make it there too. But that might be the only thing we have different in our brackets.
I mean, it's just the best. I just love having the bracket following along. Like I said, you got 2 or 3 games on simultaneously while like one's finishing up with 5 minutes to go. And it always seems to be, down to the last minute is just like so intense. A couple blowouts here and there, but it's like those one games where it's just like going down to the buzzer. It's just like must see TV. It's just so much fun, so much entertainment. March Madness. It's perfect. Don't change it. Don't add teams. Don't do anything to it. Like leave it how it is. Yeah. It's the best.
Yeah. I think they figured it out and they're not touching that for sure. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. But excited for tomorrow. Excited for Cubs opening day.
Big sports day.
MLB opening day in general. Big sports day. Yep. But that's been our show today. Thanks again for joining us. For Dan Sloak, I'm Evan Bierman. You've been listening to the Domestic Draft Podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, don't forget to rate the show. You can find us on Twitter at Domestic Draft, on Instagram at Domestic Draft Podcast. Our website is domesticdraft.com, and you can watch the show on YouTube. Just search up Domestic Draft and drop us a sub. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.